Welcome back to the Wisdom Within podcast. I am Lara Jaye, and today we are diving in to a topic that's been on my mind a lot lately. And honestly, I'm a little bit hesitant to even talk about this, even though so many people are affected by it. And the topic is addiction, and specifically how it silently blocks love and true connections and messes with relationships. That's what we're talking about today. Now, this is not about shaming. This is not about blaming, and it certainly is not about judgment. It's about self-preservation, healing, because here's the truth. You will never have a real relationship with someone who is actively in an addiction. The addiction will always come first. And when we speak about addiction, we can't separate it from trauma. That's what this podcast is about. They are deeply intertwined, trauma and addiction, two sides of the same coin. So addiction isn't about bad choices or weak willpower. It's often a desperate, very desperate attempt to soothe the unbearable. Studies on adverse childhood experiences, or ACEs, as they're called, have shown this again and again. So the higher your ACE score, meaning the more early experiences of abuse, neglect, household dysfunction, any of that you've had, the higher your risk for addiction, depression, chronic illness, and even early death. It's not because people with trauma are broken. It's because their nervous systems were shaped in chaos and not safety, that they crave these addictions for soothing. So when trauma occurs, especially in childhood, the brain adapts to survive. It rewires itself to stay on high alert. The stress response system, it becomes overactive, flooding the body with cortisol and adrenaline. And over time, this constant stress wears down the brain's natural reward pathways, particularly the dopamine system, the one that is responsible for pleasure, motivation, and connection. And that's where the cycle begins. So when dopamine gets hijacked, the brain starts searching for external hits everywhere: a drink, a scroll, a high, a person, a purchase, anything to feel that fleeting spark of relief. That's what addiction is. We're looking for relief. The more we chase those external hits, the more our brain's natural ability to produce dopamine, it weakens. So we need more and more and more to feel less. That's why someone in a relationship, for example, might find that real intimacy no longer gives them the same thrill. Pornography, of course, is a perfect example. It floods the brain with dopamine again and again, creating this artificial high that a real person with emotions and boundaries and needs can't possibly compete with. So the partner in front of them isn't the hit anymore. They've trained their brain to crave the intensity of novelty, not the depth of connection. So eventually, the nervous system, what happens? It gets numb. Real love feels dull, boring. And this is what happens when trauma hijacks the reward system. The body becomes addicted to the chemical rush of escape rather than the steady rhythm of safety and calm. And this is why healing addiction requires healing the trauma underneath it at the same time. You can't treat one without the other. Sobriety without nervous system regulation often leads to swamping one addiction for another: alcohol for work, food for sex, shopping for scrolling. The form changes, but the need is the same: to fill the void. To fill the void that unhealed pain created. Addiction is not just a brain issue. It's a body issue. It's a soul issue, a generational issue. Trauma doesn't live only in your mind, it lives in all of your cells. So if your parents or grandparents never had the safety to process their pain, which most generations ahead of us didn't, their nervous systems pass those imprints down through epigenetics, which is the biological programming of survival. So the cycle continues until someone, maybe you, says no more. Healing requires addressing both, like I said, the addiction that numbs the pain and the trauma underneath it. So when we begin to feel safe in our bodies and our breath and our truth, the need for that hit starts to dissolve. We no longer chase the high because we've learned how to access peace all by ourselves. So what does addiction even look like? When we hear the word addiction, most people picture alcohol, drugs, smoking. But addiction has many faces. And in the world of successful, high-achieving people, it often looks very polished and even celebrated. So here's the top addictions that I see in successful people and many of my clients. Number one, workaholism, equating worth with productivity. Number two, perfectionism and achievement addiction. Success is a drug, but it's never enough, is it? Number three, alcohol, the socially acceptable escape. Number four, prescription medicines, stimulants, sleep aids, anti-anxiety meds, all of them. Number five, cannabis, gummies, medicinal for some, numbing for others. Number six, social media and digital scrolling, endless loops of validation people are seeking over and over and over. Seven, shopping and overspending. Luxury or retail therapy is quite the reward and gives you the dopamine hit. Number eight, pornography, sex, affairs, the quick dopamine hit that erodes intimacy. Nine, food and caffeine, very well accepted. Fueling hustle, soothing the crash. Number 10, control. That is an addiction. The invisible addiction to fixing and managing and being in control of your world. Number 11, busyness itself. Being addicted to doing so you never have to feel. I once was sitting outside listening to music with a friend who was chain smoking in one hand all night and had a drink in the other. So all night long, it was like this. And with every drink and then a puff, it literally, the smoke blowing from his mouth that I could not unsee, was like this physical wall between us. And that's what addiction does. It creates this physical barrier between people. Each puff literally pushed me away even more. At its root, addiction is not about the substance generally or the behavior. It's about numbing pain. It's a comfort blanket that started in trauma. At first, maybe it was just to get through some stress, but soon it became a daily occurrence, a dependency. And here's what addiction really does. It numbs the person so they don't have to feel. It pushes others away. It lowers their own self-esteem because deep down, they already feel unworthy. It steals focus, energy, money, everything. It rewires the brain to crave the next dopamine hit. And spiritually, it weakens the energy field, making it very easy for dark, distorted energies to slip in. And there's a reason alcohol is called spirits. Yogananda once said that when you drink, you're not just altering your state, you're inviting other energies to step in. Now, some addictions are controversial. Take marijuana, for example. Studies show cannabis can support cancer patients, ease chronic pain, and help with anxiety. I have friends who use it specifically to connect to the higher realms. For others, it is medicine, healing leukemia, for example. But here's the shadow. It can also deepen depression, create dependency, or even mask underlying trauma. The same goes for prescription meds, antidepressants, sleep aids. People, and many people, many, truly need them. But when we rely on them to avoid feeling, to avoid dealing with the trauma, they become numbing agents, not healing tools. So, what about alcohol and overeating? Highly normalized and accepted. It shows up at every celebration, every dinner, every networking event. But for many, it slowly erodes intimacy, connection, and trust. So, the key question for me and you is this medicine or is it masking? And only you can answer that for yourself. Only you. So, you also might think addiction or whatever it's substance that is that you're partaking in only affects you. I want you to think again. Addiction doesn't just affect the addict, it affects everyone around them. For years, I was number 10 in the life of my spouse, behind work, the kids, his mom, his workouts, church friends, behind everything else. Addiction rearranges priorities, and love always ends up last. In chapter 2 of The Wisdom Within, I cover generational curses and my family's fight with alcohol extensively. So growing up, I knew I had no choice in how I was treated when alcohol was talking. But I really always thought I could protect my kids when we were visiting the grandparents. And it wasn't long before I realized that wasn't true either. So I tell a story in the book, and I'll retell a briefer version here. We were making our way from Indianapolis to northern Michigan for a week-long summer family vacation. Our first stop was about midnight in our hometown in northern Indiana. So my mom and dad knew we were coming in late that night, so they left the front door unlocked for my husband and I. And at the time, my boys were about 7 and 9. And our oldest son ran into the house, and I was right behind him. And what we saw as we entered etched a vision in my mind that I will never forget as long as I live. My mom was laying in a pool of blood on the couch, and I honestly was uncertain if she was still alive. It looked like she had been stabbed. Blood was everywhere, even on the floor and furniture. And after letting out a huge scream, my husband took the kids upstairs. I woke up my dad. We attended to her. She refused to go to the ER. We put her in the shower to find where the cut was, where she had hurt herself. And there was a large gash in the back of her head. So there was a lot of blood. She also had a bloody nose. So we were able to bandage her as best we could. And by the time I got upstairs, everyone was sound asleep. I, on the other hand, was shaking, crying, and vomiting. By this time, it was about 3 in the morning. I think my body was attempting to process what the heck had just happened. And I'm sure I slept a few hours that night. But the following morning was the kicker. So when I came downstairs, the blood everywhere had already been cleaned up. My mom was sitting at the kitchen table reading the morning paper, while my dad was outside with the sprayer hose washing away the blood-stained deck where my mom had actually fallen the night before. There was no other signs of disarray other than my body that was still trembling. So I began to ask questions and was told it was none of my business. My mom wasn't bleeding anymore, but her entire face and eyes were already beginning to bruise. My dad washed away any evidence of foul play while attempting to sow all kinds of self-doubt and confusion in my mind that it even occurred. A couple weeks later, when I got back to Indianapolis, I doubled down on my counseling after that incident and learned about gaslighting and continued working on myself, being a child of not just one alcoholic, but 2. I had to create some new boundaries for my safety, for my kids. I stopped answering the phone after 4 o'clock. We only visited family in the mornings, never, ever, ever late at night again. We built rules to keep chaos out of our home. I wanted so desperately to have a healthy relationship with my parents, who I loved very, very much. And I know they loved me. And creating these new boundaries became my new normal and what I had to do to proceed. So much later, when I was dating, I had to reassess boundaries with addictions in a whole new way. One man I was dating seemed fine on the first date. By the second date, I realized he was high every single day, yelling at me one minute, either popping a gummy or an alcoholic drink, falling asleep, sitting up next. I realized very quickly that there was no having a relationship with this person who, again, I really cared about and wanted to proceed with a relationship, but there wasn't room for me. So sometimes you create boundaries and sometimes you walk away. There is never an easy answer, and I'm not going to sugarcoat this. It's not easy. So new relationships, I stopped immediately. However, in the past, When I didn't catch the addictions as quick as I do now, sometimes they're hidden. All you can do is the best that you can do. So here's the thing. If you're the one struggling, if you're listening and you realize, hey, I'm probably numbing myself and pushing people away, whether through substances, work, distractions, I want you to hear this. You're not broken. You're hurting. Addiction is not the problem, it's the symptom. The real issue is the trauma underneath. So, what to do? Get honest. Get honest with yourself and others. Admit this is not just occasional. Number two, find support, therapy, journaling, trauma-informed coaching. You can't heal what you won't face. And number three, pray. Ask for help. Spirit will always, always, always meet you where you are. Number four, I highly recommend the resilientretreat.org, a community for those impacted by trauma. And all their services are free for people all over the world, whether in person or online. So if you love someone who's addicted, this one's hard because when it's a spouse, a child, a parent, you can't just walk away and you don't want to. But you can love without enabling. You can give compassion without sacrificing yourself, but you must set boundaries. So here's what I want you to know. They're hurting. They are carrying a lot of pain. You can love them without loving the addiction. And you can give unconditional love without judgment, but you still need boundaries. And boundaries are not punishment. They're protection. It's okay to say, you can't drink in my house, or I won't pick up the phone after a certain time, or I love you, but I won't allow this to harm me and my kids. It's not your fault, and it's not your job to fix it. If you're in a new relationship, this is where you have power. Early on, you can choose. If someone shows you they're using substances or distractions to numb daily, believe them. Don't make excuses. Don't try to change them. And then what about addictions as generational curses? They run through families. Generational curses, vows, and trauma passed down. Unless someone like you decides to break the cycle, the pattern is just going to keep repeating. And this is why healing matters, not just for you, but for your children and for your grandchildren. Not all addictions look like substances. Sometimes they look like little distractions, always having the TV on or YouTube running, scrolling just a few minutes that turn into hours, or overbooking your calendar so you don't have to feel. Even good things can become blocks when they drown out spirit. I once played affirmations and spiritual teachings 24/7. It seemed helpful at the time until I realized my intuition had gone quiet and I wondered why. What felt like support had honestly become noise. Addictions and distractions both block spirit's whisper. They scatter your energy, they numb your body, and they drown your soul's voice. So the cost of constant distraction is real. Emotionally, our feelings, we don't process them. Spiritually, you miss the whisper of spirit. Energetically, your whole aura, your whole body field gets cluttered. Physically, you ignore your body's signals. And mentally, focus scatters into fog. So what's the antidote? Silence, stillness, and presence. Top 3 shifts, whether it's your addiction or someone else's, here are 3 core shifts. Number 1, own your choice. You get to choose boundaries, relationships, and what you allow in your life. Number 2, do the inner work. Heal your wounds, face your triggers, take responsibility. No one can do this for you. And number 3, create space for spirit. Pray, meditate, journal, breathe. Give yourself the silence to feel again. Let those feelings come up. It's scary at first, but it's a whole lot better than trying to continue to shove them back down. with an addiction. Addictions and distractions will always demand center stage if we let them. But healing is possible. Boundaries are possible. Love with wisdom is possible. So if you're struggling, please reach out. If you love someone who's struggling, know it's not your fault. And if you're in a new relationship, choose wisely. And above all, remember, when you clear the noise, you make space for spirit to guide your life and make clear choices for yourself. And now we're going to close with a short light language meditation. I ask you to open your heart, receive these frequencies to repattern your cells, and start to begin to help you release the addictions in your life and to make the best choices for you and your family. Know that you are not alone. You are free to choose connection, presence, and spirit at any time. Take a deep breath in and out. One more time. And out. One hand on your heart, one hand on your stomach area. Kaliyondo, jele tora mariando, tele pelo te no yandere utore, jele bravo prayando, jele tekala parabelli utu, dele prabariando, dele congale tisha kuam. Lendo dele tu yandere 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 utu, jele blabari yandere utu, jele blabari yandere le brabari yandere ukura biruku, jele tekale amukri yandere ukuria, jele bravo kale amukando, jekwa. Que on delo dejo lo te cale pocreme di andari o corebi shele tuquam. Yendo la le oto jele tele cale andari caleti udo la parade di andari yando jele te cale coriamo calebuam. Yongo. Que loto jele to caleamo cariandari yando jele te diamo le verompole meo to caleti jele to calamo de andari anda colamoam. Zabonde. Gelatwa, teleticaleti andari, sheliticalacri andari, acariondo, gelawa, keloto de andari, pramir, sheliticalacri andari, angaletiana, yendo, andari, andara, carenti, andari, coriashua, keloto, careto, gelatqua. Deep breath in. When you're ready, come back to body awareness.